Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Colonial Survey vessel Endeavour, staring at the green holographic display showing star charts of the Outer Rim territories. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. The navigation computer kept beeping with the same message that had arrived 3 hours earlier. "Sir, we're still receiving that distress signal from the Corvin system," said Lieutenant Dave Parker from the communications station. His young face showed confusion and worry. "It's definitely coming from Corvus Prime itself." Morrison rubbed his tired eyes. In his 15 years of deep space service, he had never expected to receive a call for help from the Corvin Empire. The 8-foot-tall warrior race had been humanity's greatest enemy for over 2 decades. Their massive frames, natural armor plating, and 4 powerful arms made them perfect killing machines. They had destroyed human colonies, captured trade, ships, and refused every attempt at peace talks. Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief science officer, walked onto the bridge carrying her tablet computer. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her usually neat uniform looked wrinkled from working all night. "Jake, I've been analyzing the signal," she said, using his first name as she always did when they were alone. "The transmission is weak, but I can make out some words. They're asking for food and medical supplies." Morrison turned to look at her. "Food? The Corvin's asking for food. That's what it sounds like. The signal keeps repeating the same basic message, something about their children dying and their crops failing." Tom Bradley, the ship's chief engineer, entered the bridge wiping grease from his hands with an old rag. He was a big man with calloused hands and a gentle smile that made everyone feel safe around him. "Captain, I couldn't help but overhear," Tom said. "Are we really talking about helping the Corvins, the same bunch that attacked New Terra just 2 years ago?" Morrison nodded slowly. The attack on New Terra had killed over 3,000 human civilians, women, children, elderly people who had never hurt anyone. The images of burned homes and empty playgrounds still appeared in his nightmares. "Sir," Lieutenant Parker called, "out, I'm getting a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it through," Morrison ordered. The holographic display changed to show Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. Her stern face filled the screen, and her gray uniform was perfectly pressed despite the late hour on. "Earth. Commander Morrison, you are hereby ordered to avoid the Corvin system entirely. We have reports of unusual activity in that sector, and we cannot risk losing a survey vessel to enemy action. Continue your original mission to the mining colonies near Beta Station." The transmission ended before Morrison could respond. He stared at the empty screen for a long moment, then looked around at his crew. These people had served with him for years. They had explored new worlds together, rescued stranded colonists, and faced dangers that would have sent lesser crews running home to Earth. "What do you think, people?" Morrison asked. Dr. Park spoke first. "If they're really asking for food, something terrible must be happening. The Corvins would never show weakness unless they were desperate." Tom nodded his agreement. "The docs?" "Right, Captain. In all the battles we've heard about, the Corvins never retreat, never surrender. For them to send out a distress call, it could be a trap," Lieutenant Parker said quietly. "They could be trying to lure human ships into an ambush." Morrison walked to the large viewing window that showed the stars ahead. The Corvin system was only 6 hours away at maximum speed. He thought about Admiral Chen's orders, about his duty, to Earth Command, about the safety of his crew. Then he thought about the children mentioned in the distress call. "Set course for the Corvin system," he said finally. "Maximum speed." "Sir, Earth Command specifically ordered us to avoid that area," Parker reminded him. Morrison turned around to face his crew. "Sometimes doing what's right is more important than following orders. If there are people suffering, even our enemies, we have to try to help." 6 hours later, the Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Corvin system. What they saw on the main viewing screen made everyone fall silent. Corvus Prime, the homeworld of the galaxy's most feared warriors, looked like it was dying. The planet that should have shown green continents and blue oceans instead displayed brown and gray surfaces. Massive dust storms covered entire continents, and the usual bright city lights were dim or completely dark. "I'm detecting very weak Energy signatures from the planet, Dr. Park reported, her voice barely above a whisper. Population centers are showing minimal power usage. It's like the whole planet is shutting down. Any ships in orbit? Morrison asked. Negative, sir. No military vessels, no defense platforms, nothing. I'm detecting some small craft near the planet, but they're not responding to our hails. Morrison made his decision. Take us into orbit, broadcast our intentions clearly. Tell them we're here to help. The Endeavor moved slowly toward the planet, broadcasting a simple message of peaceful intent on all frequencies. As they got closer, the details became more horrifying. Cities that once held millions of Corvins were mostly empty. Agricultural areas showed nothing but dead soil and withered plants. Captain, I'm getting a weak response from the planet's surface, Parker announced. Someone wants to talk. The main screen flickered and showed the interior of what looked like a command center. But instead of the proud, imposing figure of a Corvin general, they saw a creature that barely looked alive. General Vex Thorn had once been the most feared military commander in 3 galactic sectors. His natural armor plating had been polished to a mirror shine, and his forearms could crush steel beams. Now those arms hung weakly at his sides and his armor looked dull and cracked. His deep voice, which had once commanded armies, was barely a whisper. Human vessel, he said slowly. Why do you come to our dying world? Morrison stepped forward. General Thorn, I'm Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Colonial Survey ship Endeavor. We received your distress signal. We're here to offer assistance. Thorn's 4 eyes focused on Morrison with difficulty. Assistance? From humans? Our people have been enemies for 20 years. Why would you help us now? Because you're suffering, Morrison said simply. Because your people are dying, and we might be able to help. For a long moment, Thorn said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a mixture of pain and ancient pride. We are warriors, human. We do not accept charity from our enemies. We would rather die with honor than live in debt to those we have fought. Morrison felt his heart sink, but he tried again. General, this isn't about honor or debt. This is about saving lives. Your children are dying. Thorn's image wavered as the communication signal weakened. You know nothing of Corvin honor, human. Leave this system. Let us die as we lived, as warriors. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison staring at an empty screen. Around him, his crew looked stunned and disappointed. What do we do now, Captain? Dr. Park asked. Morrison looked out at the dying planet below. Somewhere down there, children were starving while their proud parents chose honor over survival. We stay, he said quietly. We find a way to help them, whether they want it or not. 3 days had passed since General Thorn refused their help. Commander Morrison stood in the Endeavor's science laboratory, watching Dr. Lisa Park work at her computer station. She had been analyzing soil samples and atmospheric readings from Corvus Prime without sleeping for almost 48 hours. Lisa, you need to get some rest, Morrison said, placing a cup of fresh coffee next to her keyboard. She looked up with red, tired eyes. Jake, I think I've found something important. This isn't just crop failure or bad weather. Someone did this on purpose. Morrison pulled up a chair beside her. What do you mean? Dr. Park pointed to the data on her screen. Look at these readings. The blight affecting their plants isn't natural. It's been designed specifically to attack Corvin biology. The molecular structure is too perfect, too targeted. This is a weapon that kills plants? Not just plants. The poison in the soil is also getting into their food and water supply. It's slowly killing the Corvins themselves. Their children are getting sick first because their bodies are smaller and weaker. Morrison felt anger building in his chest. Who would do something like this? Before Dr. Park could answer, Tom Bradley walked into the lab carrying a data tablet. His usually cheerful face looked grim. Captain, I've been checking the ship's long-range sensors. We've got company coming. 3 large vessels, corporate markings. They'll be here in about 6 hours. Morrison took the tablet and looked at the sensor data. Helix Consortium ships. What are they doing out here? I did some research on the Helix Corporation, Doctor, Park said, turning back to her computer. They've been trying to get mining rights in this sector for years. The Corvins always refused to let them in. So they decided to remove the Corvins entirely, Morrison said quietly. The pieces were fitting together in a horrible way. They poisoned the planet to kill off the population, then they can move in and take whatever they want. Tom shook his head. That's genocide, Captain. Millions of people. Morrison stood up and walked to the lab's small window. Below them, the brown and gray planet continued its slow death. Somewhere down there, Corvin children were dying while their parents' pride prevented them from accepting help. Parker, Morrison called on his communicator, get me Captain Roberts up here. 10 minutes later, Captain Amy Roberts entered the lab. She was the Endeavor's diplomatic officer, a small woman with short blonde hair and a sharp mind for dealing with alien cultures. Amy, I need you to find a way to convince the Corvins to accept our help, Morrison said. And we need to do it before the Helix ships get here. Captain Roberts looked at the data on Dr. Park's screen. The Corvins see accepting help from enemies as the worst possible dishonor. It goes against everything they believe about strength and warrior culture. There has to be something, Morrison insisted. Some way to help them save face. Maybe, Roberts said slowly. But first we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with down there. Morrison made his decision. Take a shuttle down to the planet. Bring medical supplies and food rations. Dr. Park, you go with her. See if you can find out more about this poison. Sir, General Thorne specifically told us to leave. Lieutenant Parker's voice came through the communicator. Then we won't ask permission, Morrison replied. 2 hours later, Captain Roberts and Dr. Park landed their shuttle on the outskirts of the Corvin capital city. What they found was worse than anything the orbital sensors had shown them. The great stone buildings that once housed millions of Corvins were mostly empty. The few warriors they saw walking the streets moved slowly, their once powerful frames weakened by hunger and sickness. In the distance, they could hear the sound of children crying. General Thorne met them at the shuttle landing pad, supported by 2 younger Corvins. His forearms shook with the effort of standing upright. I told your commander to leave, humans, he said in his weak voice. Why do you return to witness our shame? Captain Roberts stepped forward. General, we've discovered that your planet was poisoned. This wasn't natural crop failure. Someone attacked you with a biological weapon. One of the younger Corvins, a sub-commander named Rex Kane, stepped forward. His natural armor was less developed than the older warriors, marking him as barely an adult. But his eyes burned with anger. Who would dare attack Corvus Prime? He demanded. The Helix Consortium, Dr. Park said. They wanted your mining rights. When you refused to negotiate, they decided to eliminate your entire species. General Thorne's legs gave out and he fell to his knees on the stone ground. All of this, for mining rights? We can help you, Captain Roberts said gently. We have food, medicine, and our scientists can work on cleaning the poison from your soil. No, Thorne whispered. We cannot accept charity from our enemies. It would dishonor every warrior who died fighting your people. Rex Kane looked down at his general, then at the human women. General, with respect, what honor is there in letting our children die for the pride of adults? An older warrior named Drax Stormclaw moved forward, his scarred face showing anger. Young Kane, you speak of abandoning everything our people believe. Would you have us become beggars to humans? I would have us become alive, Kane shot back. Our children are starving while we argue about honor. Dr. Park knelt beside General Thorne. Sir, I'm a doctor as well as a scientist. Please let me examine some of your sick children. Maybe I can help them. Help them how? Thorne asked. I've been studying the poison affecting your world. I think I might be able to develop a treatment, but I need to understand how it's affecting Corvin biology. For several minutes, no one spoke. The only sounds were the wind blowing dust through empty streets and the distant crying of hungry children. Finally, Rex Kane broke the silence. General, I request permission to escort these humans to the medical center, not to accept their charity, but to allow their scientists to study our enemy's weapon. General Thorne looked up at the young warrior. You speak cleverly, Kane, But I know what you really want. I want our children to live, sir. If that makes me weak in your eyes, then I accept that judgment. Thorne struggled to his feet, leaning heavily on Kane's arm. Very well, but understand this, humans. We are not accepting your help. We are allowing you to study the weapon used against us, for the good of the galaxy. Captain Roberts smiled slightly. Of course, General. We understand completely. As they walked through the empty streets toward the medical center, Dr. Park noticed something that gave her hope. Despite their weakness, despite their pride, the Corvan warriors were still trying to take care of each other. Older warriors shared their small food rations with younger ones. Adults gave up their beds in the medical center so children could rest. At the medical center, Dr. Park was shocked by what she saw. Hundreds of Corvan children lay on simple beds, their small bodies weakened by hunger and poison. But their parents sat beside them, singing soft warrior songs and telling stories of better days. The poison affects the children first because their bodies are still growing. Dr. Park explained to Rex Kane as she examined a small Corvan girl. But I think I can develop a treatment. I just need some time and the right equipment. Kane translated for the child's parents, and Dr. Park saw hope appear in their eyes for the first time. Meanwhile, on the Endeavor, Morrison received an urgent message from Tom Bradley. Captain, those Helix ships are moving faster than expected. They'll be here in 2 hours, not 6. Morrison looked out at the dying planet. Then we'd better work fast. Get ready for company, Tom. I don't think they're going to be happy to see us here. Commander Morrison watched the 3 massive Helix Corporation ships appear on his main viewing screen. Each vessel was twice the size of the Endeavor, painted in the cold white and blue colors of corporate space. Their weapon systems were already powered up and targeting his ship. Incoming transmission, Captain, Lieutenant Parker reported from his station. Put it through. The screen filled with the image of a man in an expensive business suit. His gray hair was perfectly styled, and his cold blue eyes showed no emotion at all. Morrison recognized him immediately from corporate news broadcasts. Commander. Morrison, I am Director Marcus Webb of the Helix Consortium. You are trespassing in a restricted corporate zone. Remove your vessel immediately, or face the consequences. Morrison stepped forward. Director Webb, this is open space, the Corvan. System isn't owned by any corporation. Webb smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Corvan Empire no longer exists. Their government has collapsed, their military is destroyed, and their planet is dying. Under galactic salvage law, Helix Corporation claims this system and all its resources. There are still millions of Corvans alive on that planet, Morrison said, feeling anger build in his voice. Not for much longer, Webb replied simply. Natural disasters are tragic, but business must continue. You have 1 hour to leave this system, Commander. After that, we will consider your presence an act of piracy. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison staring at the empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked shocked and frightened. Captain, Tom Bradley's voice came through the communicator from the engine room. I'm reading massive power signatures from those Helix ships. They've got enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Morrison opened a channel to the shuttle on the planet's surface. Roberts Park, we have a problem up here. Helix Corporation has arrived with 3 warships. They're claiming the system under salvage law. Captain Roberts' voice crackled through the static. Jake, you need to see what we found down here. Dr. Park has made a breakthrough, but we need more time. What kind of breakthrough? Dr. Park's voice came through the communicator. The poison they used isn't just killing crops. It's slowly killing the Corvans too, but I think I can make an antidote. The problem is I need rare minerals that can only be found in asteroid fields. What kind of minerals? Zephyr crystals and quantum dust, the kind of stuff mining companies extract from deep space asteroids. Morrison felt a cold understanding wash over him, the kind of asteroids that Helix Corporation controls. Exactly. Without those minerals, every Corvan on this planet will be dead within 6 months. Morrison closed his eyes for a moment, thinking. Then he opened a new communication channel. This is Commander Morrison calling General Thorne. Please respond. Several minutes passed before the weak signal came through. General Thorne's image appeared on the screen, and Morrison could see he was lying on a simple bed in what looked like a medical facility. "What do you want, human?" Thorne asked. "General, the Helix Corporation ships are here. They're claiming your system under salvage law. They plan to take over your planet and remove anyone still alive." Thorne tried to sit up but was too weak. "Let them come. We will fight." "With what?" Morrison asked gently. "General, I don't mean to be cruel, but your people can barely stand. You have no working spaceships, no weapons that can reach orbit." Rex Kane appeared beside Thorne's bed. The young warrior looked at Morrison with desperate eyes. "What are you suggesting, human commander?" "We help each other," Morrison said. "My ship can't fight 3 Helix warships alone, but Dr. Park has found a way to cure your people. We need to get the materials from Helix-controlled asteroids." "You want us to raid mining stations while we can barely walk?" Kane asked. "I want your tactical knowledge," Morrison replied. "Corvins have been the greatest military strategists in the galaxy for centuries. Even weakened, you understand warfare better than anyone." General Thorne managed to prop himself up on his forearms. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A temporary alliance. Help us plan an attack on the Helix mining stations. In return, we'll get the minerals needed to cure your people and defend your planet." Thorne looked at Kane, then back at Morrison. "You would risk your lives and your ship for people who have been your enemies?" "Yes," Morrison said without hesitation. "Why?" Morrison thought for a moment. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because children are dying, while adults argue about politics and profit. Because sometimes being human means helping others, even when it's dangerous." Kane stepped closer to the communication device. "Commander, even if we agreed to this alliance, we have maybe 50 warriors healthy enough to fight. Your ship has what? A crew of 60? 63, Morrison corrected. "But I have a friend who might be able to help. Colonel Dave Mitchell commands a small patrol fleet near the Centauri colonies. If I can get word to him." "You would ask other humans to risk their lives for us?" Thorne asked. "Dave Mitchell is a good man. When I explain the situation, he'll come." Suddenly, alarms started ringing on the Endeavor's bridge. Lieutenant Parker's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, the Helix ships are launching fighters. 30 small attack craft heading for the planet's surface." Morrison felt ice in his stomach. "They're going after the shuttle." General Thorne struggled to his feet with Kane's help. "Commander Morrison, if you truly wish to help my people, then I accept your alliance, but know this. If we fight together and survive, the debt between our peoples can never be fully repaid." "There is no debt between friends," Morrison replied. "Rex." Kane smiled for the first time since the humans had arrived. "Then let us plan war, human friends. The Corvins may be dying, but we remember how to fight." On the planet's surface, Dr. Park was working frantically in the makeshift laboratory they had set up in the medical center. She had been testing different combinations of medicines on samples of the poison when the alarm started. Captain Roberts burst into the room. "Lisa, we need to go. Helix fighters are heading straight for us." "I can't leave now," Dr. Park said, not looking up from her work. "I'm so close to understanding how this poison works. Just give me 10 more minutes." "We don't have 10 minutes." Through the window, they could see Corvin civilians running through the streets, carrying their children and looking for shelter. But there was nowhere to hide from ships that could attack from space. Rex Kane appeared in the doorway of the laboratory. Behind him stood 6 other young Corvin warriors, all of them weak from hunger but determined to fight. "Human doctors, we will protect you while you work, but you must work quickly." Captain Roberts looked at the young warriors, then at Dr. Park, bent over her equipment. "How quickly can you finish this?" 20 minutes if I'm lucky, an hour if I'm not." Kane hefted an old Corvin plasma rifle in his 4 hands. "Then we hold for 20 minutes. But no longer." Outside, the sound of approaching fighter ships grew louder. The first Helix attack craft appeared over the city, their weapons charging with deadly light. The battle for Corvus Prime was about to begin. Morrison watched from orbit as the first explosions lit up the planet's surface. He opened a communication channel to his old friend Dave Mitchell, hoping the message would reach him in time. "Dave, this is Jake Morrison. I'm in the Corvin system and I need help. Bring everything you've got. Colonel Dave Mitchell received Morrison's emergency message while his patrol fleet was refueling at Beta Station. The gruff Marine commander had served with Morrison during the colony wars, and he knew his friend would never ask for help unless the situation was desperate. All ships prepare for immediate departure, Mitchell ordered his small fleet of 6 escort vessels. We're heading to the Corvin system at maximum speed. Meanwhile, on Corvus Prime, the first Helix fighters screamed over the capital city. There, energy weapons lit up buildings and streets, but Rex Kane and his warriors were ready for them. The young Corvins had positioned themselves on rooftops and in tall buildings, using their 4 arms to handle multiple weapons at once. Even weakened by hunger, their natural coordination made them deadly accurate shooters. Target the engine sections, Kane called to his warriors through their communication devices. Disable them, don't destroy them. We might need those ships later. The first fighter pilot never expected ground resistance from a supposedly dead world. Kane's plasma rifle shot took out the ship's left engine, sending it spinning into an empty building. The pilot ejected safely, but found himself surrounded by Corvin civilians who were no longer running in fear. In the medical center, Dr. Park worked frantically on her computer while explosions shook the building around her. Captain Roberts stood guard at the window, watching the battle outside. "Lisa, how much longer?" Roberts asked. "I think I've got it," Dr. Park said excitedly. "The poison works by attacking the Corvin immune system first, then their digestive system. But if I can combine human immune boosters with Corvin traditional medicines..." Another explosion rocked the building, much closer this time. Through the smoke, Roberts could see Helix ground troops landing in the streets. "They're sending soldiers now," Roberts reported. Rex Kane appeared in the doorway, his armor scorched from battle. "The fighters are down, but more ships are coming. We need to get you off the planet." "Not yet," Dr. Park said firmly. "I need to test this cure on someone. It won't work unless I know it's safe." Kane looked at her for a moment, then rolled up the sleeve of his uniform. "Test it on me." "Kane, that's too dangerous. If I'm wrong..." "If you're wrong, I'll die a little faster than I was already going to," Kane said simply. "If you're right, you might save millions of lives." Dr. Park prepared the injection with shaking hands, the mixture of human medicine and Corvin plant. Extracts looked ordinary enough, but she knew it could either cure the poison or kill Kane within minutes. She gave him the shot and they all waited. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 10. Kane's eyes began to clear, and he stood straighter than he had in weeks. "I feel stronger," he said with wonder. "It's working," Dr. Park whispered. Then louder, "It's actually working." In orbit above the planet, Commander Morrison was fighting his own battle. The Endeavour danced between the 3 massive Helix warships, using its smaller size and better speed to avoid their heavy weapons. Tom Bradley's voice came through the communicator from the engine room. "Captain, I can give you more power, but not for long. These engines weren't designed for this kind of punishment." "Just hold together a little longer, Tom," Morrison replied as another enemy blast passed close to their hull. "Sir, I'm detecting new ships entering the system," Lieutenant Parker announced. 6 vessels, Earth colonial markings. Morrison smiled as he recognized the lead ship. "Dave Mitchell, you beautiful Marine. Right on time." Colonel Mitchell's voice came through the speakers. "Jake, what the hell have you gotten yourself into this time?" "Dave, we're fighting corporate raiders who committed genocide against the Corvins. I need you to help me take out some mining stations." "Mining stations? Jake, those things are heavily defended." "I know, but we've got Corvin tactical advisors now. They know how to fight these kinds of battles." "Corvin advisors?" "The same Corvins. We've been fighting for 20 years? Long story, Dave. Right now I need you to trust me." Mitchell's fleet moved into attack formation. "Well, I've followed you into worse situations before. What's the plan?" On the planet's surface, General Thorne had managed to reach the communications center. Dr. Park's cure was already working on him, and his voice was growing stronger by the hour. "Human Commander Morrison," Thorne called through the radio. "This is General Thorne. I understand you need tactical advice for attacking mining stations. Morrison's image appeared on the screen in the planet's command center. Around Thorn, Rex Kane and several other Corvin warriors studied star charts and tactical displays. General, we need to get Zephyr crystals and quantum dust from the Helix asteroid mining operations. But those stations are protected by automated defense systems. Thorn nodded slowly. I know those systems. Helix bought them from military contractors 5 years ago. They're designed to stop frontal attacks by large fleets. So how do we get past them? Mitchell asked, his image joining the conversation. Kane pointed to the tactical display. The defense systems scan for ships approaching from normal directions. But if we come from below the asteroid field, using the rocks for cover— A classic mining raid strategy, Thorn agreed. We used it against human colonies during the war. I'm ashamed to say it was very effective. Morrison studied the plan. It could work, but we'd need pilots who understand Corvin tactics. My warriors can fly, Kane offered. We may be weak, but we remember our training. Kane, your people can barely walk, let alone fly combat missions. Rex Kane stood up straighter, the cure already making him stronger. Commander Morrison, you've given us hope when we had none. You've given us medicine when we were dying. Now let us give you something in return. Within 2 hours, an unusual fleet prepared for battle. Human ships carried Corvin warriors as gunners and tactical advisors. The Corvin's forearms allowed them to operate multiple weapon systems simultaneously, while their natural combat instincts combined perfectly with human technology. Sarah Chen, Morrison's best pilot, found herself working alongside a Corvin warrior named Kex Ironforge. Despite the language barrier, they quickly developed a combat partnership that felt like they had been flying together for years. Human pilot Chen, Kex said in broken English, your ship fast, but weapons weak. Let me show you Corvin targeting. Sarah watched in amazement as Kex operated 4 different weapon controls at once, each of his arms moving independently, but in perfect coordination. Their fighter became a deadly precision instrument. Meanwhile, Tom Bradley worked with Corvin engineers to modify their ships. Corvin metallurgy was incredibly advanced, and their natural understanding of structural strength helped improve the human vessel's defenses. Your human technology is very clever, admitted the Corvin engineer Nex Lifeseed, watching Tom work. But you build for speed when you should build for endurance. And you build for strength when you should build for efficiency, Tom replied with a grin. Maybe together we can build something better. The combined fleet approached the first mining station hidden among the asteroids. The automated defenses scanned the area, but detected nothing unusual. The ships were flying in a pattern that looked like natural asteroid movement. All ships, this is Morrison. Remember, we're not here to destroy anything. We need those minerals intact. Understood, Jake, Mitchell replied. My Marines are ready for boarding action. Rex Kane's voice came through the communication system. Human friends, welcome to Corvin warfare. Today we hunt together. The first mining station never knew what hit it. The raid on the first mining station went perfectly. The combined human Corvin force captured 3 tons of Zephyr crystals and enough quantum dust to begin treating the poison on Corvus Prime. But Director Webb was not finished with them. Commander, Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, looking at the tactical display with growing concern. Intelligence reports from Colonel Mitchell's scouts showed new ships entering the system. Jake, you need to see this. Mitchell's voice came through the communicator. Webb has called in reinforcements, but these aren't corporate security ships. The main screen showed sleek, angular vessels that seemed to shift and change as they moved. Their hulls were dark metal with glowing blue lines running along their surfaces. Dr. Park, who had returned to the Endeavor with samples of the cure, gasped when she saw the ships. Those are Zeth collective vessels, cybernetic beings from the outer rim. Morrison felt ice in his stomach. The Zeth collective was known throughout the galaxy as a race of beings who had replaced their biological bodies with machines. They saw organic life as inefficient and weak. Why would Webb ally himself with the Zeth? Morrison wondered aloud. His answer came when Director Webb's image appeared on the communication screen. Behind him stood a tall, thin figure that was more machine than living being. Glowing blue eyes stared out from a face made of polished metal and electronic circuits. Commander Morrison, meet my new business partner, Zeth Prime Unit Designation Cold Logic. The collective has agreed to help remove the pest problem from this system. The Zeth being spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. Organic beings are inefficient. Your emotional responses make you weak. We will eliminate both human and Corvin populations for optimal resource extraction. Morrison stepped forward. Webb, you're talking about genocide. Millions of innocent people. Webb shrugged. Business is business, Commander. The collective gets to study human and Corvin biology for their research. Helix gets exclusive mining rights to this entire sector. Everyone wins. Except for the people you're planning to murder. Casualties of progress, Webb said coldly. You have 1 hour to surrender your ships. After that, we will demonstrate the efficiency of Zeth technology. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison staring at an empty screen. Around him, his crew looked frightened and angry. Captain, Lieutenant Parker reported, I'm detecting at least 20 Zeth ships taking positions around the system. They're blocking all escape routes. Morrison opened a channel to the planet's surface. General Thorne, we have a serious problem. Thorne's image appeared on the screen. The Corvin general looked much stronger thanks to Dr. Park's cure, but his face showed concern as Morrison explained the situation. The Zeth Collective, Thorne said slowly. We fought them once, decades ago. Their technology adapts to every tactic we use against them. How do we fight an enemy that learns from every attack? Rex Kane appeared beside Thorne. The young warrior had been helping coordinate the distribution of the cure across the planet, and he looked healthier than he had in months. General, what if we don't try to outthink them? Kane suggested. What if we do something completely without logic? Thorne raised an eyebrow. Explain. Corvin berserker tactics. When our ancestors fought wild beasts on the homeworld, they didn't use strategy. They used pure fury and unpredictable violence. The beasts couldn't adapt because there was no pattern to adapt to. Morrison understood immediately. Controlled chaos. If we attack without following any logical pattern, their computers can't predict our moves. It's insane enough to work, Colonel Mitchell added, his image joining the conversation. But it means we'll be fighting blind too. Better blind than dead, Morrison replied. The plan they developed was unlike anything in military history. Human ships would pair with Corvin warriors, combining human unpredictability with Corvin battle fury. There would be no formation flying, no coordinated attacks, no logical strategy at all. Sarah Chen found herself flying with Rex Kane as her gunner. Kane, I need you to shoot at whatever feels right. Don't think about it. Just react. Kane gripped the weapon controls with all 4 arms. Human pilot Chen, Corvins have been fighting on instinct for 1,000 years. Today we remember how. The battle began when the Zeth ships moved to attack Corvus Prime. Morrison's mixed fleet met them halfway between the planet and the asteroid field. The first exchange of fire was devastating. Zeth weapons cut through space with surgical precision, but the human Corvin ships moved in ways that made no sense. Sarah's fighter spun upside down while Kane fired in 3 different directions at once. Other ships flew in spirals, loops, and impossible angles. The Zeth computers tried to analyze the attack patterns, but found nothing logical to analyze. Ship after ship moved randomly, fired wildly, and somehow hit their targets through pure instinct. And luck, Tom Bradley, working in the Endeavor's engine room with his new Corvin partner Next Lifeseed, pushed their ship through maneuvers that should have torn it apart. This is crazy, Nex, Tom shouted over the sound of straining metal. Crazy is good, Nex replied, using his 4 arms to reroute power to different systems faster than any human could manage. Sane thinking is what machines expect. But the Zeth had advantages too. Their ships could repair themselves during battle, and they felt no fear or pain when damaged. Slowly, the Organic Alliance began to take losses. Morrison watched 2 of A. Mitchell's escort ships explode under Zeth fire. On the planet's surface, Zeth ground forces had landed and were systematically destroying everything in their path. Jake, Mitchell's voice came through the static. We're losing too many ships. This isn't working. Morrison was about to agree when he noticed something on his sensors. Wait, Dave. Look at the Zeth ships. They're moving differently than they were 10 minutes ago. Dr. Park, monitoring the battle from the science station, confirmed his observation. The chaos tactics are working, but slowly. The Zeth computers are starting to overheat, trying to process completely random data. Then, we just need to be more random. Morrison decided. He opened a channel to all ships. All units, this is Morrison. Stop trying to fight logically. Sarah, fly like you're drunk. Mitchell, attack like you're angry at the universe. Corvins, show these machines what pure warrior fury looks like. Rex Kane let out a battle roar that could be heard through the communication system. All across the fleet, Corvin warriors began chanting ancient war songs, while human pilots threw their ships into maneuvers that would have failed any flight test. The tide of battle began to turn. Zeth ships, designed to counter logical opponents, found themselves facing enemies who fought with heart instead of head. Their adaptation systems began failing as they tried to process the impossible. But just as victory seemed possible, Director Webb played his final card. Attention all ships. Webb's voice broadcast across the system. I'm activating the Helix Planet Cracker. If I can't have this system, no one can. On Morrison's screen, a massive weapon platform that had been hidden behind one of the larger asteroids began powering up. The Planet Cracker was designed to destroy entire worlds for mining purposes. My God, Dr. Park whispered. That thing could crack Corvus Prime in half. Morrison opened a channel to the planet. General Thorne, you need to evacuate everyone. Now. Thorne's image showed him standing in the command center surrounded by his warriors. Commander Morrison, there are still millions of Corvins on this planet. We cannot evacuate them all in time. Then we stop that weapon, Morrison said grimly. The Planet Cracker was protected by its own shields and defense systems. A direct attack would be suicide. But as Morrison stared at the massive weapon, a crazy idea began forming in his mind. Sarah, Kane, are you ready for the most insane flying of your lives? Sarah's voice came back immediately. Just point us in the right direction, Captain. Rex Kane's battle roar filled the communication channel. Today we fly with the spirits of all Corvin warriors. Morrison smiled as he set course for the Planet Cracker. Sometimes the most human thing to do was something completely insane. The Planet Cracker weapon was massive, easily the size of a small moon. Its surface bristled with defense turrets and energy shields that could stop any normal attack. But Commander Morrison wasn't planning a normal attack. Sarah, I need you to fly straight at that thing's main weapon port, Morrison ordered through the communication system. Sir, that's suicide, Sarah replied, but her voice showed she was already turning her fighter toward the target. Not if you're fast enough and crazy enough. Kane, when Sarah gets close, I want you to fire everything you've got directly into their main energy collector. Rex Kane understood immediately. You want to overload their weapon system. Force it to fire on itself. Exactly, but it has to be perfectly timed. Colonel Mitchell's voice joined the conversation. Jake, even if that works, the explosion will destroy everything within 100 kilometers. Sarah and Kane won't survive. Before Morrison could respond, young pilot Tony Garcia's voice came through the speakers. Garcia was barely 20 years old, fresh from the academy, but he had been flying with them since the battle began. Captain, I'm closer to the target than Sarah. Let me make the run. Garcia, no. I need experienced pilots for this. Sir, with respect, you need someone expendable. Sarah and Kane are too valuable to lose. I'm just a rookie pilot. Morrison felt his heart break a little. Tony Garcia reminded him of himself at that age, brave, stupid, and willing to die for strangers. Tony, that's an order. Fall back to support. Position. Sorry, Captain, but I'm already committed to the attack run. On the main screen, Morrison watched Garcia's small fighter racing toward the Planet Cracker. The weapon's defense systems opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams. Garcia's ship danced between the attacks, moving with the kind of reckless skill that only comes from being too young to understand fear. But Morrison could see he wouldn't make it. There were too many defensive weapons. Suddenly, Rex Kane's voice cut through the battle noise. Garcia, this is Kane. I'm coming to help. Kane had somehow convinced Sarah to fly their fighter alongside Garcia's attack run. The Corvin warrior's forearms worked all the weapon systems at once, clearing a path through the defensive fire. Kane, what are you doing? Morrison shouted. What Corvins do best, Kane replied calmly. We die for our brothers. The two small fighters reached the planet Cracker's weapon port at the same time. Garcia fired his missiles directly into the energy collector, while Kane poured plasma fire into the same target. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive weapon began to shake as its own energy turned back on itself. All ships emergency retreat, Morrison ordered. That thing's about to blow. But Garcia and Kane were too close to escape. Morrison watched helplessly as the planet Cracker's main weapon exploded in a ball of white light. When the explosion cleared, two small shapes could be seen floating in space. Emergency beacons were flashing, but both fighters were badly damaged. This is Garcia, came a weak voice through the static. Ship's dead, but I'm alive. Kane here, the Corvin warrior reported. My ship is broken, but Sarah is safe. We ejected before the explosion. Morrison felt relief wash over him like cool water. Tom, get rescue shuttles out there now. As the rescue operation began, the remaining Zeth ships found themselves facing a choice. Their cybernetic logic told them the battle was lost. The planet Cracker was destroyed, Director Webb's flagship was retreating, and their primary objective had failed. Zeth Prime Unit Cold Logic appeared on Morrison's communication screen one last time. Organic beings, you have demonstrated an unexpected tactical capability. We withdraw from this engagement, but we will study your methods. You do that, Morrison replied, and next time, maybe think twice before trying to commit genocide. Zeth ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only debris and the memory of their cold voices. Director Webb made one last desperate transmission from his retreating flagship. This isn't over, Morrison. Helix Corporation has resources you can't imagine. Maybe, Morrison said calmly. But we have something you'll never understand. We have friends. 3 days later, Corvus Prime was beginning to bloom again. Dr. Park's cure had been distributed across the entire planet, and the Corvin population was recovering quickly. The natural strength of their species, combined with human medical technology, produced remarkable results. Morrison stood in the observation deck of the Endeavour, watching cargo ships from Earth arrive with supplies for the planet below. Beside him, General Thorne looked out at his healing world. Your Dr. Park estimates that within 6 months our agricultural systems will be completely restored, Thorne said. And our engineers think the new hybrid technology your people developed will revolutionize space travel, Morrison replied. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the ships come and go. Finally, Thorne spoke again. Commander. Morrison, I must ask you something. Why did you help us? Your people had every reason to let us die. Morrison thought about the question for a long moment. Because that's what humans do, General. When we see someone suffering, we try to help. It doesn't matter if they're our friends or our enemies. It just matters that they need help. Even at the cost of your own lives? Especially then. Rex Kane entered the observation deck, walking strongly on legs that had been too weak to support him just days before. He was carrying a data tablet and wearing a new uniform that combined Corvin military design with human technology. General, Commander Morrison, the joint colony ship is ready for launch. 500 humans and 500 Corvins ready to explore new worlds together. Morrison smiled. Any idea where you want to go first? Kane grinned, showing teeth that were designed for tearing metal. There are reports of mining companies enslaving colonies in the Outer Rim. We thought we might investigate. Investigate? Morrison asked. Liberate, General Thorne corrected with what might have been a smile. Morrison laughed. I think this partnership is going to work out just fine. 6 months later, the first joint human Corvin colony ship, named the Friendship, departed from Corvus Prime. Its mixed crew was heading for the Outer Rim territories, where corporate raiders had been attacking small settlements. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity's compassion combined with Corvin strength. Other species watched nervously as former enemies became closer than brothers, bound together by shared sacrifice and mutual respect. In the ship's command center, Captain Sarah Chen worked alongside Subcommander Rex Kane, planning their route to the Outer Rim. Their friendship had grown from the chaos of battle into something that transcended species barriers. "Sarah, do you think we're doing the right thing?" Kane asked as he studied the star charts with his forearms. "Kane, we're going to help people who can't help themselves. We're going to stop bullies from hurting the innocent. If that's not right, then I don't know what is." Kane nodded slowly. "The humans have taught my people something important." "What's that?" "That true strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about who you're willing to protect." Dr. Park, working in the ship's medical bay, smiled as she overheard their conversation. She was developing new treatments that combined human medical knowledge with Corvan biological understanding. The possibilities seemed endless. Tom Bradley and his Corvan partner Nex Lifeseed had created hybrid engines that were both powerful and efficient. Their friendship had produced technology that neither species could have developed alone. And in his ready room, Commander Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, wrote his final report to Earth Command. "The Corvan crisis has taught us something vital about humanity's place in the galaxy. Our greatest weapon isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our refusal to let anyone suffer alone, even our enemies. Today, humanity and the Corvan Empire begin a new chapter together. We go forward not as conquerors but as protectors, not as enemies but as family." He sealed the report and looked out the window at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, people needed help, and now humanity wouldn't be going alone to help them. The Corvans had learned that strength without compassion was just brutality. The humans had learned that compassion without strength was just wishful thinking. Together, they were going to change the galaxy. The story of how humanity saved its greatest enemies from extinction had just begun.